أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين حبيبي إله العالمين أبي القاسم محمد اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي صدق الله العلي العظيم. Brothers and sisters in Islam and in humanity, respected guests and elders, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'm very honored with your presence on this Monday evening on our third night together, inshallah. And I want you to know that as your brother, I am very happy that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us the tawfiq that we can spend these holy nights together. And know that I have good news for you, brothers and sisters, that it's not, if we reflect on the fact that we are here, think of the improbability of events. Think of how improbable it is that you've ended up in this hall tonight, that you were born into this world, born as a follower of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa ali and his Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam, and that if you're here in this hall tonight, that means that you must be destined for great things, inshallah. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. So this is not a coincidence that we have come here together. In fact, it's miraculous. You think about all of the events that had to happen to bring us here, the billions of events that led us to be here tonight. Nothing with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is a coincidence. Everything has meaning. So last night we covered the critical first step in defeating the inner tyrant, inner Yazid, the inner Fir'aun, to unmask, expose, and challenge his hold on us, to confront the reality of our situation of being held in captivity. And we said that the first step in defeating the tyrant is to recognize how he operates, his deception, his lies, how he plants doubts in our hearts and minds, causes us to become hopeless, have what's called ya'is. We become cynical, doubting our ability to break free. And having confronted the reality of the inner tyrant, we are now in a position to feel the anger and deep grief at our situation and how we have, in succumbing to perhaps habits or vices or hopelessness, that at a deep level we've lost respect for ourselves. And this is part of the seed of self-transformation. When we say, man, this thing that I'm doing, I'm not respecting myself. It doesn't feel good. I'm better than this. Maybe you look in the mirror and you see that you're out of shape and you say, man, I'm better than this. This isn't the real me. And you set the intention to transform. And a few months later, people meet you and say, wow, what happened, man? SubhanAllah, what did you do? They see the fruits of your hard work. You set the intention. You were courageous. You had a vision of your future self. You awakened the giant within. This is the message of Karbala. So, surrendering, linking our issue, our amr, our difficulty, our hopelessness, we need to surrender that to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Surrender and hand over the difficulty to Him. However, this surrender to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala isn't just mere lip service where you say, Ya Allah, please help me. But as you say, you don't really believe it. You say, maybe it's going to work, maybe it isn't. No, this is a surrender where you are desperate. You've hit rock bottom. You say to Allah, Ya Allah, I need to be rescued. I'm stranded. I can't escape on my own. I'm stuck in a cruel maze. I'm stuck in a spider's web and I've tried to get out and I keep failing. That's the point of istighatha. Desperation, a desperate cry to Allah, feeling the grief in your heart, feeling the humiliation, feeling how I keep disrespecting myself, falling back into the same trap. Ya Allah, help me, rescue me. This cry of the believer initiates the rescue mission. Just like if you were stranded somewhere and the SES comes and the helicopter and they rescue you, say, Ya Allah. That's the position you need to be in to initiate the process of transformation. Crying out to Allah to be rescued. Have you noticed, brothers and sisters, that now that the mic is fixed up, the true Abdul Hamid's coming out? A bit subdued the last few nights with the microphone, can't really project the voice. So, barakallah feekum, brothers, for fixing up the mic system. So, when we've initiated this istighatha, this cry to Allah to be rescued, we are now out of the territory of nafs al-lawama, the regretful self, where many of us are stuck. Nafs al-lawama is the lower nafs that's always second guessing itself. 2 steps forward, 10 steps back, doubting, confused, can I do it, hopeless, gives up hope. You know, like the person that maybe goes on a diet for a few days or makes a change and says, I'm going to do this, and they try out all the equipment on the gym and then you never see them again. That's not like nafs al-lawama, right? Not the seed isn't planted strong enough, the hunger isn't strong enough to change. You're still second guessing, you're still internally conflicted, you still haven't got true faith in your transformation. You're not believing in yourself. So when we initiate the divine rescue and pray out to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this takes us psychologically and energetically out of the territory of nafs al-lawama with its excuses and justifications and rationalizations, and it takes us into the territory, a very exciting place, nafs al-mulhama. Nafs al-mutma'inna, very high level, very high. Let's focus on trying to get to nafs al-mulhama, which is the inspired nafs, the nafs that can receive ilham, inspiration, guidance. And we get to nafs al-mulhama when we now reorientate our GPS signal to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because the nafs al-ammara, with its second guessing and excuses, that's like the local hard drive of your computer. Whereas the nafs al-mulhama is like you're connected to the cloud now, to the field of consciousness and its infinite possibilities. Dr. David R. Hawkins, in his groundbreaking book, Power versus Force, gives us a very powerful scale of consciousness where he demonstrates that if you are not connected to the power of Allah and you are living your life in a state that lacks integrity, your life is ruled by force. That's why his book's called Power versus Force. Force means everything is effortful in your life. You've got to push and force, and you've got to keep complaining. You feel like a victim. Whereas when we take this critical step and be courageous and initiate the divine rescue mission and give up our preconceived ideas and excuses and blaming our parents and our society and what happened to me, when we give that up, we now enter into a level of consciousness marked by power. Things become less effortful. Things become more easy. We have yusr, which we'll get to. We begin to reconnect with our true self, our soulful self, our higher self, because most of us are connected to what psychologists would call the protective personality. The shell, not the real you, not the real Abdul Hamid, not the real Yusuf, Ahmad, Zahra, Fatima. It's the protective shell of the personality that we had to develop based on our childhood wounding and trauma and the conditioning and all the junk we've inherited. This process allows us to start to remove the rust that's accumulated. We begin to connect with our true self. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala meets us where we are at to begin our transformation. You do not have to be in a very high place to transform. Allah takes us from the lowest place and can transform us to the highest dimension. And this is where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala meets Nabi Musa alayhi salam. He meets him hungry, confused, disorientated, fearful, desperate, fleeing from the captivity of the tyrant Pharaoh. And the story is in Surah Al-Qasas, chapter 28 of the Quran. The story of Musa alayhi salam is that Prophet Musa, the holy Prophet Moses, peace be upon him, our prophet, he's our prophet. He was raised in Pharaoh's court. So Pharaoh, the tyrant who claimed himself to be a lord over Egypt, the Egyptians had enslaved Bani Israel, the children of Israel who were monotheists, believed in Allah, and through them had nubuwwah. Bani Israel become, as a side note, al-Yahud in the Quran after their rejection of Nabi Isa alayhi salam. But before that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala addresses them as Bani Israel, the children of Israel. So they'd been enslaved by Pharaoh 600 years. Before that, before Nabi Musa alayhi salam, was Nabi Yusuf, who ruled Egypt some 600 years before Musa alayhi salam. But in the time of Musa, Pharaoh is ruling and enslaving the children of Israel. And Musa grows up in Pharaoh's court. He is adopted as his son, if you read the story. And one day, Musa alayhi salam is going for a walk, a stroll in the city of Pharaoh. Some historians say this would have been the city of Memphis or Heliopolis. And he was considered to be part of Pharaoh's palace. But he was always a mu'min. And Musa's mother, Musa alayhi salam's mother, was promised when she was told to put him in the river Nile and release him and he will be taken by an enemy, by Pharaoh. She was told he is of al-Mursaleen. She was reassured he is going to be a messenger, a prophet. So Nabi Musa alayhi salam was never a disbeliever. He was always a believer in Allah, but he was in a way undercover in Pharaoh's court. And one day as he's walking through the city, he sees an Israelite, one of his people, Muwahhid, quarreling in a fight with an Egyptian, one of the people of Pharaoh, a kafir. And Musa alayhi salam was very strong. And he came to the rescue of the Israelite. And in rescuing the Israelite from the fight, Musa alayhi salam gave him such a powerful punch that he killed the guy. The Quran says, wakazahu, knockout blow. And Nabi Musa alayhi salam didn't mean to do that. In legal terminology, we'd say that wasn't murder, it's manslaughter. And Musa alayhi salam is startled. What have I done? I didn't mean to kill the guy, but his fist, he packed a punch, alayhi salam. So he says in the Quran, Surah Al-Qasas 28, 15 to 17, this must be Satan's work. Clearly he is a misleading enemy, he said. Lord, I have wronged myself. This is Nabi Musa speaking in the Quran. Forgive me. So he forgave him. He is truly the most forgiving, the most merciful. He said, my Lord, because of the blessings you have bestowed upon me, I shall never support those who do evil. Killing the Egyptian, Musa alayhi salam is now in danger of being exposed as he's really the enemy of Pharaoh, because he killed the Egyptian and in protecting his brother, the Israelite. Bani Israel are Bani Yaqub alayhi salam, Prophet Jacob, our prophet. And what we see here is that this whole thing that Musa is now entangled in, creating much fear for him, was part of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's master plan. You know, one of the things I tell clients, especially Muslim clients when there's difficulties as a therapist, is I say, you know what, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He is orchestrating for us our own personal masterclass. We're being set up at every moment. Musa alayhi salam, this is a setup by the Almighty. Because Allah has the power to turn what appears to us to be a calamitous setback, a breakdown, into a breakthrough. Here is Musa alayhi salam. He is a fugitive. He is told, Musa, the Egyptians, the Mala of Fir'aun, his authorities are after you. They want to kill you. So Musa alayhi salam is a fugitive. In common language, we'd say he's on the lam, he's on the run, alayhi salam. And he leaves Egypt on foot, on a long and treacherous journey on foot. Some say reaching Jordan, reaching Lebanon. From Egypt, on foot. Confused, hungry, fearful, but he is a believer. He has fled the tyrant. He has completed the first step in the hero's journey. He has set the intention to be released from captivity. He's departed his comfort zone, the comfort of the palace in Pharaoh's court. He's departed his normal state of affairs. And we too need to depart the comfort zone of our usual state of affairs if we want to transform. Now, having taken this momentous, courageous step, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala formally initiates Musa into nubuwah, into prophethood, speaking to him directly and giving him the enormous task of returning to Egypt and defeating the Pharaoh and releasing Bani Israel from captivity. This is precisely the task for our inner Musa and our inner Husayn alayhim salam. Having made the commitment to rise up and no longer live in captivity, having drawn a line in the sand and openly declared, we will not submit to the tyrant, we now access the divine help to slay the dragon. We now are connected to the power of Allah, no longer to the power of our puny little ego and its puny little willpower that keeps letting us down. Our heart and our mind are now connected to Allah, Al-Ghalib, the prevailer. Why do you think Imam Ali alayhi salam, Ghalaba, he would always prevail? Because he was connected to Al-Ghalib. He was a vessel, a vehicle for Al-Ghalib. How could he not prevail? And this marks the emergence of a new green shoot in our kingdom. A green shoot which needs to be nurtured and strengthened into it to turn into a strong tree with green roots. Musa alayhi salam as a baby was that green shoot which turned into an immovable tree which defeated Pharaoh. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala transforms Musa's fear into courage. He transforms his stick, his asa, into a serpent as a hujjah, as a proof of his nubuwah. Nabi Musa is now commissioned by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to go and ultimately defeat the Pharaoh and free the children of Israel from captivity. A metaphor for you and me. We need our inner Musa alayhi salam to set free our soul and our heart, which is in captivity and is ruled by the inner Yazid and inner Pharaoh. The city of our heart, the capital city, is being captured. And now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us the steps we must take on the roadmap to release ourselves from captivity. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us 4 critical steps in Surah Taha, chapter 20, verses 25 to 35. The precise steps we need to take after having made the commitment to change and we have surrendered our amr, our matter, to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Number 1, Musa alayhi salam. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has spoken to him, has commissioned him. And Musa asks Allah for the following. He's giving us the 4 steps. Number 1, قَالَ رَبِّ اشْرَحْ لِي صَدْرِي. Musa said, Lord, expand for me my chest. Sharh al-Sadr is a key, essential step in transformation. If we don't understand this critical first step, we will fail and fall back into nafs al-lawama with the excuses and the rationalizations. Allah tells us in the Quran, when God wishes to guide someone, He opens their chest to Islam, their sadr. And when He wishes to lead them astray, He closes and constricts their chest. Surah Al-An'am, chapter 6, verse 125. Now the sadr, or chest, or breast, breastbone, mentioned in the Quran, is also known as the outer heart. It's the portal for the access to the qalb, the heart. And it's the meeting point between the heart and the lower self. The sadr is the portal which takes us from nafs al-lawama into nafs al-mulhama. So, if we have an open or expanded sadr, chest, this allows us to resist negative impulses. And what starts to happen when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us sharh al-sadr, the expansion of the chest, is nur can begin to enter the heart, and that nur energetically makes sinning off-putting to us. We are energetically repulsed from displeasing Allah, because when we do something that displeases Allah, if we have sharh al-sadr, we feel energetically off. We can't do it. It's like if you see someone hurting an animal, you think, my God, how could someone do that? I would feel so horrible, because your conscience and your heart is awakened. It's not hardened. So you could never conceive of yourself doing that thing. That is a form of sharh al-sadr. So this makes us courageous and receptive to religious truth, receptive to guidance. Expansion of the chest, of the sadr, is related to our energetic or psychic body. When we have sharh al-sadr, which comes from making the commitment to transform, doing the istighatha to Allah, initiating the divine rescue mission, and then asking, Rabbi shrah li sadri, you enunciating those words is a form of medicine for the heart, energy medicine. And the opposite of a expanded sadr, chest, which is the portal to the heart, is a constricted sadr dayyiqan, harajan. And when our sadr is dayyiq or constricted, we feel confused, rattled, scrambled, cut off from guidance, like a disorientated, discombobulated. This is dayyiq al-sadr. And the Quran uses 2 terms with respect to the constriction of the sadr: dayyiqan, tight, constricted, and harajan, which is like thick vegetation, like thick bush, thick forest covering the sun. The light cannot penetrate the heart. And in this state of constriction of the sadr, we experience anxiety and confusion because we have a heart block. we have a heart block, and that's what we will be talking about in the next 2 nights, inshallah. How do we unblock the heart as the portal to transformation? Sin creates energetic blocks which constricts the sadr, the outer chest, outer breast, which then blocks the nur from entering the heart, which then causes us to feel confused and defeated. Dhikr of Allah, the prayer of Nabi Musa alayhi salam, قَالَ رَبِّ اشْرَحْ لِي صَدْرِي, initiates the process of sharh al-sadr. So like I said in a previous night, sin isn't just about being punished. Sin, the more advanced understanding, is it creates an energetic block which disconnects us from the GPS signal that connects us to Allah. So when we're disconnected from that, when we sin, we only can go based on our distorted beliefs and superstitions and what we were taught in our culture. It's like you're cut off from the internet and you just have what you've stored on your hard drive. Can't access the cloud anymore. So sin has a distorting energetic effect on us. As we begin to experience sharh al-sadr, the expansion of the chest, which allows nur to enter the heart, we begin to sense very subtly how certain behaviors, certain people, certain environments shift our energy. Say, man, that doesn't feel good. When I have sharh al-sadr, that feels awesome. I'm in flow, I want to do my salat, things come easily, I feel more regulated, and then I do something. I gossip about someone, I watch something I shouldn't have watched, I have a hateful, judgmental thought. And it's like, oh, what happened to that nice state I was in? I was in flow. And you say, oh, because of that. Say, okay, astaghfirullah, bring myself back. And the believer bounces back, is resilient. This is one of the qualities of a mu'min, to have hope. You made a mistake. Don't get stuck in guilt. All you need is healthy regret, nadam. And then you bounce back. The believer's resilient. You bounce back, you bounce back, you come back. You don't say, oh my God, look what I did, and a huge pity party, become a victim. Allah's saying, don't do that. Have healthy regret and recommit, recommit, recommit. It's like you fall off the wagon with your training, you recommit, you're back the next week. Same thing here. So once we've experienced sharh al-sadr, we become very aware of how different it feels when we do something we shouldn't be doing. We become energetically attuned, energetically very conscious of energy. So the first step on our roadmap for release from captivity, after declaring the intention to be free, screaming out to Allah for divine rescue, is to pray for sharh al-sadr, like Nabi Musa alayhi salam. قَالَ رَبِّ اشْرَحْ لِي صَدْرِي. The second step on our roadmap for release from captivity is the second part of Musa alayhi salam's prayer and request from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَيَسِّرْ لِي أَمْرِي. Musa alayhi salam asks Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's assistance to give him yusr. Yusr means to give him yusr in defeating the tyrant Pharaoh. Yusr means things fall into place. You know, you might have let's say you have to go and do something in an institution, you have to get your passport, and you go and you say, Subhanallah, yassar amri, there was yusr. You know, I arrived right on time. I was going to miss the train, but it was delayed by that 30 seconds and I got it. I had my opal, I couldn't find it, but then I found it at the right moment. I got to the passport office. The moment I got in, 5 people walked behind me. Had I got in a second earlier, I would have been in the queue. Subhanallah, the lady that served me, she was so lovely. That's yusr. Things fall into place when by an inch difference, they might have not fallen into place. We need the yusr of Allah, for Allah to give us yusra. And you all know the verse, Inna Allah yuridu lakumul yusra, wa la yuridu lakumul usra. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants for you ease. He wants to facilitate things for you, facilitate your amr, facilitate your request. Right? Not like for the builders in the audience, like a local council with your DA and your things. You know how long that takes. Not much yusr with those things. With Allah, there's yusr. And number 3, the third step on our roadmap for release from captivity is وَحْلُلْ عُقْدَةً مِّن لِسَانِي يَفْقَهُ قَوْلِي. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is asking Nabi Musa, untie my tongue, untie the knot in my tongue so that they may understand my words. And Musa alayhi salam is asking Allah, as we too must ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for the unknotting of any of the impediments, those knots, those iqad, which stand in our way to defeat the tyrant. And untie the knot from my tongue so we can think and communicate clearly as we tackle the inner or outer tyrant, because the tyrant will seek to confuse our thinking, to bamboozle us, to make us doubt ourselves, to trick us. And the fourth step on our roadmap for release from captivity is given to us by Nabi Musa alayhi salam in his words to Allah recorded in the Quran. وَاجْعَلْ لِي وَزِيرًا مِّنْ أَهْلِي هَارُونَ أَخِي أُشْدُدْ بِهِ أَزْرِي وَأَشْرِكْهُ فِي أَمْرِي. And give me a helper from my family, my brother Harun alayhi salam. Increase my strength through him. Let him share my task. We see in this fourth step of our roadmap of release from captivity, the critical step of asking for help from a righteous servant of Allah. Prophet Musa alayhi salam asks Allah to appoint him a helper, and to appoint him a helper from among his family, from among his ahl. Who are our ahl? Question to the audience, who are our ahl? Who do we ask for help? Who are our divine assistants? Any ideas? The clue is in the word ahl. Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam. For you and me, this is Ahlul Bayt. Musa alayhi salam is asking for help from Ahlu. Our Ahl, we are their Shia, are Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam. We address and ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala first and foremost for His help, for Him to give us sharh al-sadr and yusr and the untying of knots and the overcoming of obstacles, and then for the intercession of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi and his holy and pure household, the Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam. That's the fourth step. We address Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala first and foremost. He is our creator. And you can say, Allahumma inni as'aluka, or Allahumma inni ad'uka bihaqqi Ali alayhi salam, bihaqqi Fatima alayhi salam. Oh Allah, I ask you by the right of Ali alayhi salam, by the right of Fatima alayhi salam. Let's say you're a young man in the audience and you are struggling, you're feeling, young man or woman, you pray, you're struggling, you're feeling hopeless, you're feeling defeated. Say, Allahumma inni as'aluka, Allahumma inni ad'uka bihaqqi Ali alayhi salam. You can say it in English, by the right of Ali. the lion of Allah, the warrior. Ya Allah, give me your strength by the right of Ali and his sword. Appoint him to me as a helper. I need his sword to cleanly cut the head of this serpent, this entity attaching itself to my tree. My ego is a puny little razor blade, giving this thing paper cuts. The sword of Ali cuts it clean. What a privilege we have that we have connection to Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam. What a privilege, man, that we have. And we're not accessing that privilege. So as I end, brothers and sisters, if we fail to follow these steps given to us by our Creator, we will fail to defeat the tyrant within, the inner Pharaoh and the inner Yazid. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has provided us the roadmap, hiding in plain sight in the Quran. 1, expansion of the chest. 2, facilitating the journey. 3, untying the knots, impediments and obstacles. And 4, appointment of a divine servant to help us, to increase our strength and share our task with us. Tomorrow night, inshallah, night 4 on our journey together. And I'm so privileged that you've honored me with your presence, brothers and sisters. Tomorrow night, inshallah, we will be covering the 4 demons capturing our heart, the capital city. As we turn deeper into the psychology of our heart, the crown jewel which the inner tyrant wants to capture as his capital city. In the name of Allah, the entirely merciful, the especially merciful, O Allah, I ask you by the right of Fatima alayhi salam and her father, sallallahu alayhi wa alihi, Rasulullah, and her husband alayhi salam and her sons alayhi salam, and the secret which you have reposited within her. Lift up your hands, brothers and sisters. To bless Muhammad and the household of Muhammad, and to hasten for your supreme representative, Imam al-Mahdi, Ajalallah ta'ala farajahu al-sharif, his relief, well-being and your support, and to accept our repentance, forgive us and bestow your mercy upon us, and to hasten the support of your supreme representative and our relief alongside him. O most merciful of the merciful, and the blessings be upon Muhammad and his purified household. Brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.